Okay, can I have a confirmation from Joao if he's in the room? Do we have Joao? Hira?
He should be here. Wait. Yeah, I think he is. Joao, are you here?
Okay. Yelena, can we have the results on the screen? I would like to congratulate Mr. Joao Gitch, the new IPSF president. Congratulations, Joao, and happy that we finally have the president elected. You can have 1 minute to address the General Assembly.
Okay, once again, João, and I really want to thank you all for trusting me and really be supporting my application. I will really try to not let you down and really get to work to my new team and really try to get all our plans achieved. I also want to leave a note that we are having challenging times in IPSF now, so it's really important for you to be active in General Assembly, but also be active throughout the year and really try to be, as a member organization, really supporting the work of the new EXCO and really the new team. So please bear with us and support us through this journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Joao. He already started with the plan. See? Okay. Can we proceed? What time is it now? Okay, so can we have the next election? So for the second round, we also have the position of the chairperson of external relation. We received a nomination form from Mr. Younes Tilali. Can I have a confirmation if the candidate is in the room? Okay, perfect. So I will just proceed directly and open the floor for discussion. For any points, please use the Google form. I have the first point from KMP Sweden, Netherlands. Please take the floor.
And like KMP Sweden, Netherlands, so thank you for your application. We have one question. In your nomination form, you didn't have any previous experiences with IPSF. So how will you overcome the challenges that no doubt come with this if you get elected? Thank you.
Thank you for a question. Yes, I have no experience in IPSF for now, but there is two things that I would like to say. The first is I've been involved in lots of organizations at local level in Grenoble Alpes University or my faculties. I've been involved in a hospital, in a national organization at a European level, and each time I made it a point to adapt myself and learn from every experiences I had. In fact, I can adapt myself, know better IPSF, even if I follow IPSF offers since the last 2 years. And now it's an accomplishment for me to be here in front of you and introduce myself. So thank you.
Okay, next we have IPSF Egypt.
Thank you so much for the application. So I'd like to know, how do you plan to cooperate and assess the RROs to reach out and approach regional sponsors and partners? Thank you.
If I well understand, you want from me that I present IPSF to a partner.
know how do you plan to assess the RROs?
Oh, okay. The first phase of my application was presenting a phase of education for all the regional officer, but also for the member of IPSF. I am actually a consultant in public affairs and develop lots of skills in public affairs and external relations. And I think that if we want that IPSF find new sponsors for the next years, we need to count on every member of IPSF organization. That's why the first phase for me is very important, is to put everyone in capacity to make external relations at different scale, regional scale, but also national scale if there is a need.
Okay, next we have LPSA Lebanon.
Hadil Mdahle, LPSA Lebanon. Thank you for your application. So my question is, how would you evaluate IPSF's external portfolio at the moment? And accordingly, what changes would you like to bring to it? Thank you.
I think there is a lot of place for IPSF to progress in its portfolio. For that, we need to have a very rigorous method in the way you are going to meet new sponsors. I have a method that I use actually in my work, and it's working because we have lots of clients, and one of the most influential public affairs agency in France. The first, we need to have a clear position. We need to have legitimacy. We need to identify all actors that they will need to be involved in the project, and we need to bring people together in meeting to create a shared vision of the project. And this kind of debates need to be led by IPSF. Thank you.
Okay, next we have MAPS India.
Thank you for your nomination, Nirali from MAPS India. So my question to you is, you have quite a bit of experience related to think tanks and setting up networks. And you've also mentioned a list of exhaustive sponsors. So how would you bring all these concepts together? If you were to build a think tank in IPSF and connect them to sponsors, how would you do it? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. The first thing is that regarding the involvement that I wanted to have in IPSF, I've asked to my chief if I could have this kind of involvement and share it with my involvement in IPSF, and he said yes. So it will not be a problem. The second thing is that I'm a hard worker. I want to work, and I want this kind of challenge, because I think there is great things to do with IPSF, and the recent sanitary crisis, show that we need pharmacists. So I want to be involved in this project, and it will give me energy. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Arpik Algeria.
Majda Arpik Algeria. I would like you to highlight one of your plans to attract sponsors for the Federation, especially under these circumstances with the pandemic. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't very hear well your question. Can you repeat, please?
I would like you to highlight one of your plans to attract sponsors for the Federation, especially under these circumstances of the pandemic. Is it clear now?
It is. The pandemic is a very exceptional situation for all of us. And I really thank you for this question. I think that we have two kinds of sponsors. The first one are the one who have the willing to finance health and social projects. And I think that we can count on that kind of finance because IPSF projects could interest them. And there have lots of public call for projects, and we could give an answer for this call for projects. The second kind of sponsor you need to have a clear vision of the added value that IPSF could bring to them. And if we show them that there is a strategic point to have a partnership with IPSF, they could help us. Thank you.
Okay, Isma Farsi Indonesia.
Okay, Francia is my Farsi Indonesia. So this year we have been also trying with ECOSOC and UNESCO to improve the partnership, but I just want to ask you, how are you going to improve and upgrade the external relations between IPSF and ECOSOC and UNESCO at this point if you are elected? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I think that we have a great opportunity with UNESCO this year. This opportunity is that UNESCO is working on its middle-term strategy, so from 2021 to 2027. And I think that IPSF, as representing student organization, pharmacy student organizations, have a word to say. Also, I've already worked with UNESCO on HPV vaccination. I have some network with UNESCO, especially in France, in Montpellier, and I think that I could reactivate this network for leading this work with IPSF. Thank you.
Thank you. IPSF Egypt.
Thank you so much to Maata from EPSF Egypt. So I have seen in your application that you have participated in different organizations. So why didn't you have been a part of like IPSF since you lack the experience within IPSF? Why this year you showed up and applied for this position? Why didn't you apply before for any position? And thank you so much.
Thank you, EPSF, for your question. Why I wasn't being involved before in IPSF? The first thing is when I've begun my involvement in student organization in 2012, I didn't know in 2012 that IPSF was existed. After, I've been involved in big responsibility at a university level that require a full-time involvement in this institution. In the national organization, which is called Lafage, I make a break from my studies because it was also a full-time involvement for the organization. And now I've finished all this kind of involvement. I just have my work and I have this agreement with my chief. So thank you.
Okay. So I think Croatia dropped. We will go with Kainap's Republic of Korea.
We'll see Kainap's Korea. There will be World Congress 2021 in Korea next year. As for external relations, how are you going to help World Congress Korea team? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I want to be very available for South Korea in the organization of the next Congress. I think that this is a kind of event that could bring a lots of partner sponsors and a lots of institutions too, because this is the reflect of the power of IPSF. IPSF is able to bring together students coming from the world. And I think that the organizer of Congress will have all my support for the organization of the Congress. And if they need any help, they just need to ask and I'll be there.
Okay, IPSF Egypt.
So I'd like to ask about your personal responsibilities for the next mandate. So for example, if you are working and your plans for traveling in the IPSF Expo meetings and the World Congress and so on, please talk about your availability online and offline. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. The main thing that I would like to say is that I will be available. I have this agreement with my chief, and I will have the time, and I want to free the time for being available for all the Congress and event for IPSF and for the events of IPSF partners too. So I will be available, and in fact, since the crisis, we are making a lot of home office work, so I can manage my schedule as I want because I have my clients and I can have agreements with my clients to schedule meetings when I want. Thank you for your question. Thank you again.
Okay, Isma Farsi, Indonesia.
Florencia Isma Farsi, Indonesia. Thank you, Jonas, for your applications and your answers. How are your specific strategies with those non-exhausted lists of private funders? And please elaborate how confident you are in securing them for the Federation within 1 year tenure. Thank you.
I'm confident because IPSF exists since 1949. You have legitimacy in the field of the international scene and the pharmaceutical field scene. So I am very confident for the improvement of the network of IPSF. For the next year, as I've said, I think that we have lots of opportunity with UNESCO, with WHO, because there is a reform of WHO. And I think that we will have lots of opportunity with patient association because they need pharmacy students for leading advocacy campaign, and with pharmaceutical laboratories because they also need students for help us in the development of their products and image. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Also, just a heads up, we see a lot of you commenting on the WhatsApp group. We would appreciate some interaction here as we're having really important elections going on. So we would appreciate some attention to what is happening due to PA. Thank you so much. Next, we have SPSA Slovakia.
Martin, SPSA Slovakia. Thank you for your application, Jonas. You mentioned the humanitarian force project in your application. Can you describe deeply how should the project work? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Martin. This project, I think that this project is very, very important because We know that there is a lack of pharmaceutical education in some region, and this lack and the crisis have demonstrated it could be a danger for the population. I would like to develop this project in 5 steps, like I've said, with a very rigorous method. We need to know which actors could be involved in this kind of project. We need to know what is the need. We need to know how the environment is working, and we need to identify all the actors. I can speak about
Time.
4 types of factors. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Maps India.
Thank you. So again, after going through your nomination form, you have quite a bit of corporate-related experience, and in IPSF, we usually get different sponsors every year. I wanted to ask you, do you have a strategy or a plan in mind that would help us sustain a single sponsor or multiple sponsors over a longer period? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Yes, I have a strategy. I think that we have to reach 3 aims for this strategy. The first one is giving to the sponsor a clear vision of IPSF position on the international scene. The second aim is to giving to them a clear vision of what we are doing. And the third one is to involving them in the conceptualization of IPSF project. I think that this is really important. And if we don't involve partner in the conceptualization of our project, they won't be involved, and we will get them for a short time, for a time slot, maybe for an event, but you need to have strategic partners for having new long-term partner in IPSF. Thank you for your question again.
Okay, next we have EPSF Egypt.
Yumna Altif of EPSF Egypt. So I'd like to ask about your preparations before running into the position. So for example, the documents you have read, and also I'd like to ask you, what are the values of IPSF? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I will begin by the value of IPSF. I think that I'm sharing the value of IPSF. This is value of solidarity with people. This is value of humanism. I think that this is very important, and there is the willing in IPSF to always progress, to always help people and develop the pharmacist job. This is the value of IPSF, and this is the value I'm sharing. For the first part of your question, I've read the WHO reform since 2012, an NG statement, a strategic plan of IPSF. I've tried to be informed on IPSF project like CEP, because CEP bring money for IPSF. Thank you for your question.
Okay, we have another point from EPSF.
Yasmin, EPSF, thank you for your application. So I wanted to ask you about, this year as EMRO established an MOU with the X2S EMR chapter. So I believe that this MOU has the potential to go global. So what do you think, how can that be achieved, or how is that possible? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I'm really sorry. Can you repeat the beginning of your question, please?
Okay, so this year, as the EMER region, there was an MOU established with X2S EMR chapter. So since it's a global organization, it has a potential to go global. So how do you think it can, this MOU can go from region to global? How is that, how can that be achieved? Thank you.
Okay, I think that the first thing that we need to do is to meet every region officer for having a clear vision of how the EMO region have led this project. This is the first thing, because if we don't have the same language for speaking about a project, we can't have a coherent vision of that project at global scale. So I think that the first thing that we need to do is to conceptualize that shared vision of the project. And in a second way, we will need to make a mapping of each actors we could solicit in each region for bringing that at a higher scale. Thank you for your question.
Okay, I have a clarification from EPSF Egypt.
I just want to clarify that Axios isn't a project, it's an organization. So, yeah.
Okay, so I think that I didn't understand the question. The name of the organization. Axios, okay. I would like to apologize for the response I just gave you before. I have to admit that I don't know yet Axios. So I'm really sorry for that, but I will read about Axios and work on it if I am elected. And it will be a pleasure for me to help Emerald to level up this this partner, this organization, the relation with Axios. So sorry again, and I hope that I could help next time.
Okay, we have PPHSF Pakistan.
Nirmal from PPHSF Pakistan. First of all, thank you for your application. I would like to ask what challenges you think you might face because of no previous experience in IPSF, and how do you plan to overcome them? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I think that the reform of WHO is the main challenge we'll need to face for the next year, because it will almost happen next year, I hope. And there is several issues about this reform. The first one is that this is the United States who are leading the discussion. But they are leaving, they will leave WHO the next year. The second is that the France and Germany have left the discussion in the group of 7. And regarding this situation, I think that the main challenge will be to have strong relation with the member of the group of 7, with the state of the group of 7. I would like to base my work on the member of IPSF. Thank you.
Okay, last point, EPSF Egypt.
I think there is a procedural motion on the text chat box.
Yes, sorry, procedure motion from Majda, ARPIC Algeria. ARPIC Algeria.
I'd like to propose a procedural motion of closing the discussion and proceeding to the closed discussion. Thank you.
Okay, seconded by ATEP Tunisia. We will vote on this on the chat box. All those against closing the floor for discussion and proceed to voting. Motion carried. It's not voting. Proceed to the closed discussion. So I see none. I will now close the floor for discussion and we will proceed with the closed discussion, secret discussion. Can I have the candidate invited to the waiting room? Live stream off, recording off. And if we can close the system so